Good to have you with us here watching the news. I'm Avni Raja. Our focus continues on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's day 10 of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. Now, after announcing a temporary ceasefire in 2 Ukrainian cities to open humanitarian corridors, reports say that the ceasefire has been delayed by Russia. In fact, evacuation was scheduled to begin at 11 a.m. GMT, but Russian forces did not stop shelling in the area. Authorities were hoping to evacuate up to 2 lakh people from the city. Corridors where the ceasefire was ordered was to evacuate citizens as well as deliver food and medicines to the cities that have been cut off from the world.
Гуманітарні коридори мають працювати сьогодні. Маріуполь і Волноваха, щоб врятувати людей, жінок особливо, дітей, людей старшого віку, щоб дати продукти харчування і ліки тим, хто залишається. Ми робимо все з нашого боку, щоб домовленість запрацювала. Це одне з головних завдань саме на сьогодні. Подивимось, чи можна піти далі у переговорному процесі.
Let's in fact bring in Major General Shashi Asthana, who's joining us here on the broadcast. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us. It's day 10 now, and things are just continuing in the same way. The shelling continues, and in fact, there was an agreement to have a ceasefire in 2 cities, but that also was not upheld. What is your own reading of the current situation?
See, when the tempo of operation is such that there is continuous shelling going on, at that point of time, what happens is that tempo of operation, the offensive side, the side which is on the offensive, will not like to break it. So apparently, if the ceasefire was promised and has not been implemented, then certainly those who were planning to evacuate during that time, they would be certainly disappointed. As far as the operations are concerned, if you see in the overall context, you are seeing the effect of the operations, and most of the news channels are showing the effects of the operations. As far as Russia is concerned, they have a set plan, and in that plan, the entire area which is next to the Black Sea and Sea of Azov, that belt starting from Donbas area and going slowly right up to Mariupol and then joining up with the other areas to cut off Ukraine totally from the sea. That is the offensive, and that is one of their strategic aims, to be able to secure the entire oceanic passage to themselves. So they intend achieving that as early as possible. Now, as far as the other part is concerned, as far as Kyiv is concerned, they are again shaping the battlefield in a manner that all the areas which are falling almost in line with the line of their offensive, from where their softer elements are going to pass through once the main battle tanks start entering the Kyiv. So those areas are also being targeted in a manner so that the remnants of the Ukrainian army cannot destroy or disturb the logistic flow when the operation joins up. So this is the way it is being built. The center of gravity continues to remain Kyiv, and the way the operation is being built up and joined. Now, once the battle joins, what happens is people don't want to pause, because if you pause, then the defender gets readjusted. So when the battle is at a crucial stage, it's difficult to have a pause at that point of time. Apparently, I feel that may be the reason as to why the promised window for evacuation has not been adhered to. But normally, last time when they had promised, that is about 2-3 days back, that time they had adhered to the timings in terms of time and space. They had given a safe passage to the people who have to be evacuated. Now, in the northern side again, the battle has joined. In fact, it's a hardcore battle which is going on. So considering that, I don't think they have been able to give any safe passage to to the civilian population, including the Indian children who are at Sumi and certain other areas where they were supposed to be after vacating Kharkiv. So apparently,
Right.
they have not been able to.
Major General, my apologies for interrupting you, but I request you to stay with us. Antony Blinken is speaking at this point in time. Let's just listen in.
Poland is also a leading responder to the humanitarian crisis that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has sparked. As Bignev just said, as of today, more than 700,000 people have been forced to flee the violence perpetrated by Russia by crossing the border from Ukraine to Poland, with more coming every single day. I'm going to have the opportunity to speak to some of the folks who have come over just recently from Ukraine, but I have to say it's an incredibly powerful reflection of Poland's values, that vulnerable people know that here they will find refuge. To help support the needs of Ukrainians in Poland and other countries, the Biden administration just requested to Congress $2.75 billion in humanitarian assistance. That's both to meet the need of vulnerable people and communities inside Ukraine, as well as to support refugee services, including here in Poland. That's in addition to the more than $54 million in humanitarian assistance to Ukraine that we announced just last week. We also sent a disaster assistance response team to Poland, working very closely with humanitarian agencies to provide the critical health care, safe drinking water, sanitation, hygiene supplies, protection for vulnerable people, especially women and children. We've delivered nearly 20,000 thermal blankets suited for cold climates. We've provided funding for emergency supplies to sustain health care for up to 100,000 people for 3 months, and up to 500 emergency surgical procedures. Embassy Kyiv has temporarily relocated to Poland as well, and I'm grateful for that, that Poland is hosting them. They and our embassies and consulates in Poland and across the region are working hard to assist American citizens and their families departing Ukraine, and to help them with the influx of U.S. military personnel, humanitarian workers, as well as assistance. We established a U.S. Welcome Center close to the Ukrainian border. It's been operating 24/7 since hostility began. We have support teams as well stationed near the border in Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Moldova, to assist any Americans who are leaving Ukraine. At this moment of crisis for millions of Ukrainians, and as the security of Europe hangs in the balance, Poland has stepped forward with generosity, with leadership, with resolve. We're grateful for the strong foundation of friendship and cooperation that we've built together over many, many decades, which so many are now relying on today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time for some pictures, please.
All right, that was Antony Blinken there at this point in time. But let me go back to our guest, Major General, who's still with us. Major General, you know, of course, at this point in time, the people of Ukraine, in fact, Ukraine forces have also been putting up an extremely tough fight, and perhaps something that Putin had not foreseen as well. What is your own view on that front?
See, the amount of time which the Russians got for preparing for the offensive, it is the same amount of time which Ukrainians got to be able to deter that offensive. So the preparation of Ukrainians has also been quite good. The only difference was that Russians have a superiority of numbers as far as their military arsenal is concerned. Now, Ukrainians knew very well that in the open, that is outside the township, it will be difficult to match the superiority, numerical superiority of the Russian forces. So what they have done is they have tried to use the townships as the fortresses, and whatever equipment they have deployed in the fortresses so that they can give a pitched battle. Because when it comes to townships and the built-up area, in fighting the built-up area, the side which has even lesser equipment can also give up a tough fight. Right. So that was the strategy which the Ukrainians adopted, and they have been doing fairly well at it, because their airspace, their air assets were destroyed in the very beginning. and therefore they do not have the kind of air superiority which they could have had. But as far as Russians are concerned, they've got a fair amount of favorable air situation, although not 100% air superiority, but fair amount of air superiority, and therefore they are free to fly. So that's one part of it. Secondly, the tug of war is started. If you see, many channels are giving only 90% of information is actually coming from Ukraine, and only 10% are coming from Russians. But as an analyst, we can analyze both. You see, Russians are not too late, frankly speaking. As far as Russia is concerned, just imagine in 1971, we took 16 days for a much smaller country like Bangladesh. Ukraine is a much larger country. So it's not that it is going too late. Now, Russians have to do, there are certain preconditions for this operation, which Russians are shaping the battlefield. They have now been able to cut off Ukraine from the sea. So no support can come from sea. So that was one requirement which they had to do, which was time consuming. Secondly, they not only have to ensure that their columns move from north to Kiev, they also have to reduce all the townships which are along that column, so that their softer elements are not targeted later, because there will be certain resistance which will remain in these towns even if the town has been captured of the Ukrainians. So that is why they have now been able to shape the battlefield, and now they will pulverize Kiev. They have already pulverized Kharkiv to a great extent, and after pulverizing, so that they lose much lesser people. Similarly, you would have seen that they have taken the power centers, those nuclear power plants. Now they have no intention of destroying those power plants, but the aim is now to break these services. If the internet services, the electricity services, and the supply, if they are controlled and they are broken, then what will happen is the will for Ukrainians to fight and the will of their political leadership will go down, and that is the strategic aim of Russia, so that the Ukrainian president should give up the demand for NATO. Now that is the strategic aim on which they are working, and I think they are working as per plan.
Yes, absolutely, Major General. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective. 10 days into this invasion, we'll have to just wait and see now how it goes forward from here.